Good morning to all my friends and family, and welcome to this episode of Jim's 5am Club. As you can probably see, I'm in a place called Cockle Bay down in Darling Harbour, surrounded by lots and lots of beautiful boats, yachts, and it's the Sydney Boat Show, which started yesterday on Thursday and will finish on Sunday. So 4 days, and you've got a stack of beautiful vessels here for sale, and over in the convention centre there are about 300 other smaller vessels, as well as technology and other things to have a look at and get your mind around. And Sydney is indeed a happening place. We've also got the World Cup, the Women's Soccer World Cup, being co-hosted by Sydney and New Zealand, and the Matildas are playing on Monday. We're in the round of 16 now, so it's a knockout part of the competition. With 32 countries originally kicking off the competition, playing 3 games, and the top 2 teams going through to the round of 16, and that commences today. Well, actually today, or maybe tomorrow, not sure, but Matildas are playing Denmark on Monday evening to see if we can make it through, and I kind of expect France to make it through as well. So if Matildas make it through, we may be playing France in the quarterfinals, which is really exciting, because I went and saw France the other night play Panama, and it was a goal fest with not over, but 10 goals being scored. The score ended up 6-3 with France winning, and Panama had 1 penalty goal disallowed, which they had to retake, and they scored. So I don't think many people can boast that they've been to a soccer match where they've actually seen 10 goals scored, and the atmosphere was electric and absolutely spectacular. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go through a book summary like I normally do. I'm back into my rhythm. I haven't done a book summary for a few months now, but I thought now was the time to rekindle my love of vlogging and sharing knowledge on this platform called Jim's 5am Club. And the book summary that I'm going to go through today is entitled Awe. And I didn't write down the author's name, so I'll include it in the notes. But this book here is an interesting book and talks about the emotion of awe, because the author, who's a psychologist, experienced the death of his brother and learnt something new about himself, and learnt something new about how humans behave, how they operate, and the things that inspire them. And he wrote this book where he captured his knowledge, he did some research, and he came up with a framework of understanding awe, and how we can then incorporate it and learn from it and use it in our own lives. And what he says here is quite profound and interesting, where he says that in awe we understand that we are part of many things that have a much larger influence than just the self. And through experiencing death as he did with his brother, the feeling of being in the presence of something vast that transcends your current understanding of the world. And I guess, like the author, I too myself have experienced death, the death of my mother, who died in 1999, and the death of my father, who died in 2008. And I too understand and can vouch for the fact that when you are in the presence of your parents passing away, it is something which is quite surreal, quite interesting in terms of a growth and development perspective, and quite transformative in terms of how it enables you to see yourself, see your world, and try and understand how God operates and how humanity has basically operated and lived for many, many years, since the beginning of creation, one can say. So the author kicks off his book here where he talks about awe, and he details the fact that, according to his research, there are 8 kinds of awe. Now, not 1 or 2, but according to the author, 8 kinds of awe. The first 3 are transformative. The second 3 are cultural, as described by the author, and the last 2 are universal. So let's just go through those 8 and see what we can make of it, what we can learn. And the first one that the author describes is a thing called moral beauty, where one witnesses others showing virtues, such as a soldier carrying a wounded soldier to safety, or a mother losing a baby, or a person dealing with their own illness or losses in life. This in itself is very, very powerful, and as the author says, quite transformative, because by watching others behave and watching others live and express virtues is of itself something which is very, very powerful to us humans, because we learn from each other. And whilst we can learn from books, nothing beats learning from your peers, observing how they behave, and then looking to see if those behaviours resonate with you, and then saving those behaviours in your library of things that can influence the way you behave when the time comes for you to experience some of those things that we all get to experience in our life. Now, we all get to experience happiness, we all get to experience sadness, we get to experience gain, we get to experience losses, but along the way we all get a chance to express our virtues, and we are all, I guess, from what the author here is saying, an example to somebody else at every step of the road. People are watching us and getting inspired by what we think, say or do. And what the author says is that this moral beauty is something that can influence significantly the way we live and the way others live as well. So moral beauty is the first type of awe, but in many ways, according to this author, it's also potentially one of the most special types of awe that can shape a person's worldview and shape a person's life. The second type of awe that the author talks about is a thing called collective effervescence. And I guess we all have experienced this in some way when we go to a concert, when we go to a sports match. I was at the World Cup, the Women's World Cup the other night, where France played played Panama. And just the experience, just the feeling of being amongst 40,000 fans in a joyous sort of arena where there were Mexican waves, where there were cheers, where we put the lights on our mobile phone, where we saw, as I mentioned before, 10 goals netted by two different teams. It was something which was quite uplifting. I've also been to grand finals where my teams have won. I will never ever forget the time when Greece won the Euro back in 2004, and the collective effervescence impacted and influenced virtually every single Greek person on the planet. We became one just for a moment, but it was just a beautiful, beautiful moment that I guess if you speak to any Greek, they will remember where they were and how they felt on that particular day. I also remember another significant day of collective effervescence when Australia won the rights for the Olympics, when Antonio Samaranch said, "And the winner is Sydney." And I remember jumping up and down with joy. Paula and I got up at 5 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock, whatever the time was, to watch the announcement. We didn't quite know, we didn't quite expect Sydney to win. And when we heard those magic words, we jumped up and down with such glee, shouting at the top of our voice, that my parents came running downstairs thinking that a burglar had broken into the house and there was some significant sort of issue. No, we just couldn't contain ourselves to the point where we just got overexcited, not really realizing the impact that it had on people who were in the house still sleeping. So collective effervescence is one of those experiences of awe which is really, really special. The third experience of awe that the author talks about is being experienced and being exposed to nature, such as being in the presence of a full moon, or seeing the stars, watching a moonrise, watching a sunrise, a sunset, being in front of a massive mountain. I don't know what this girl's doing here by herself. She looks lost. I can't see anybody around here, her parents or anything, but I'll attend to it shortly. So being in nature Now, we all feel a sense of awe when we go for a bushwalk or when we go places, when I travel to Greece, for example, and just see the beautiful waters of Greece. You tend to enjoy the sunrise and sunsets and all the wonderful things in the world. It's just quite spectacular. The author then goes on to say there are other elements of awe which are great as well, such as music, art and architecture. I remember years ago as a young 22-year-old going to Paris and going to the Louvre and witnessing for the first time that tiny painting of the Mona Lisa, and just being in awe at that particular piece of art and other things that I saw. Like whenever I go to Greece, I always go to see the Parthenon, because it just is awesome to think that you can be walking in a place where there are people, or where people or a great culture existed thousands of years ago. The author also talks about other aspects or elements of awe, such as religion, where you can experience the truth of Jesus, the truth of the Old and New Testament, the truth of, I think all this collapsed over there, I'm not sure what's happening, but there's a lady over there with her, maybe they're a family, where you can live and experience the lives of the saints and of the beauty of Jesus and all of the things that he did within his lifetime for the benefit of all man and mankind. He talks about awe in terms of experiencing life, experiencing death, as we mentioned before, the awe that one experiences in an epiphany, where you can read a book or experience a quote or just something which gives you an aha moment. I remember reading a whole book once. I've read many books in my life, and Jim's 5am Club is all about delivering book summaries, but I remember reading a whole book once and saying to myself, what's this book all about? I just couldn't really understand what the book was all about. And then I only underlined and highlighted one sentence in this whole book, and I said to myself, now I understand that you need to read a whole stack of guff just to come to one enlightening sentence, which ties together and links together many other things. Because at the end of the day, all of the experiences that we have in our lives are there for a reason, and we all experience different snippets and slithers of reality, and it's all about taking those little experiences, adding them together, tying them together, and developing and generating your own worldview. So the author talks about that as being awe-inspiring as well, because what happens is that sometimes we do things and things just click, our life clicks, and as we say, it's an epiphany, it's a moment that changes the way you feel, the way you think, and it just changes your life. And it's transformational, as we mentioned before. So as we said, awe is something that has nothing to do with money. Abby, all has nothing to do with money and is free. And it's quite powerful to understand that all of the great things in our lives are free and nothing to do with money, nothing to do with status, and nothing to do with success. So all of the boats, all of the money in the world, all of these wonderful, wonderful toys that we see here, yes, would be great to own, but it's not going to transform your life significantly, because it's not going to be as awesome as what you think it's going to be, because God works, according to this author, in mysterious ways and creates awe in ways that are received and experienced in different ways by different people. So people in general don't see money-related events as awe-inspiring, and it's important to understand that awe is sacred. It's a sacred emotion which is far too pure to be corrupted by the forces eating away at us on a daily basis, according to this author. And to understand that we need to understand and to figure out and to experience the one great lesson of all, that the best things in life are free, and the second best things in life are very, very expensive. So you can end up spending millions of dollars having one of these boats or a fleet of all of these boats, but it's not going to change your life one iota. It's not going to make you happy. It's not going to create awe. So getting back to what we talked about before, the author here reminds us that out of all of the things that we talked about in terms of awe, the greatest one of all is, and the most important one of all, is the moral beauty. And it's something that the Greeks touched on time and time again in their lessons, in all of the things that they did in their architecture and things like that. It was all about the lessons that we got from people during events in their lives, those testing events, the events where you expect people to break, where you expect people to fail. It's at that moment that a person's character comes to the fore, because it inspires others, it buoys others, it gives others strength and hope. So nothing inspires us more than the goodness of people. And the author here encourages us to live a Christian life, to be generous and not to expect anything in return, to be godlike, to give, to serve, and to be humble, and to do things which are going to make people feel stronger and more empowered in their lives. Because seeing others demonstrate kindness and courage triggers oxytocin, which is a hormone that rewards social behavior. You've got to understand that if you do good things, you inspire good things in other people. If you do bad things, you inspire bad things in other people. But it's the good things in other people that generate these hormones, this magic glue that enables others to come together and to keep people linked together, as opposed to repelling people from each other. Seeing gratefulness makes us feel more grateful. Seeing others do the right thing inspires us to doing the right thing and following in their footsteps. So the author says that you can't plan for awe, it just happens. And you need to be present, you need to pay attention, and you need to become a detective of awe. So that's why it's really, really key to read the scriptures, live a Christian life, and to try and be the best possible person that you can be, so that you can experience awe in all its awesome glory, and to be a beacon of hope for others, and to try and get things done in your life that are going to become stepping stones for others to follow. Because when it's all said and done, we are all just links in a long chain. Whilst I don't know who the first Christian was in my family, I dread the day that I ever live and see the last Christian in my family. And hopefully it won't be me. It definitely won't be me. Hopefully it won't be my children or grandchildren. And I guess my hope and prayer is for goodness, for Christian values, a Christian life, a humble life, to be the sorts of things that future generations pursue, as opposed to becoming too individual or trying to seek selfish successes and missing out on all the wonderful, awesome things that the world has to offer, which, as we mentioned before, are free, don't cost money, and generate oxytocin within a family, within a community, and within all the people one touches in their journey in life. So thank you very much for joining me on this episode of Jim's 5am Club. I am really excited to be back in the saddle doing my 5am Club, and it's that time of year when we're getting closer and closer to springtime. I'm getting closer and closer to my youngest daughter Artemis giving birth to hopefully a healthy baby girl who will be named Prototheos, Poppy, and for Artemis to experience motherhood, for William to experience fatherhood, and for us to welcome a new member to our family, a person who hopefully will be able to shine the light, the Christian light of the scriptures on her world, and to be inspired by the goodness of those who have come before her and those who surround her. Anyway, take care everybody, all the best, and we'll chat again soon. Bye for now. Yassas.